Here.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Patrick Bowie.
Yeah.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen.
Here.
And Mayor Jones.
Here.
And Councilmember Klopfenstein is absent.
Just want to note that Councilmember Klopfenstein sends her regrets. She would be here if she possibly could. She's not feeling well. She swears it's not that thing that everybody's talking about. Can I ask Assistant City Manager Maria Stipe to lead us in the invocation, and then Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. If everybody could please stand and prepare yourselves according to your faith. Dear Lord, we ask for your presence here this evening. Bestow your blessings on our deliberations so that we may have the benefit of your wisdom and integrity. Guide us to make the best decisions for those who live and work in our Garden Grove community. Amen.
Please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to presentations, and we do have several, so we'll start with 1A.
Item 1A is recognition of the Orange County Fire Authority Firefighter of the Year, former Garden Grove firefighter John Behringer, as presented by OCFA Chief Roberts.
I got to make sure he's with me here. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council, city staff and residents. My name is Ron Roberts. I'm your Division 1 Fire Chief here with the Orange County Fire Authority. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I get the honor to present to you tonight our Battalion 11 Firefighter of the Year. If you will remember, Battalion 11 is composed of all 7 of the Garden Grove fire stations. And if John looks familiar, it's because he is a former Garden Grove firefighter who came over to us in August. And he has not sat still since he came over to us. And that's one of the reasons that he was selected as Firefighter of the Year. John has been instrumental in helping with the transition with Garden Grove Fire and Orange County Fire. And in particular, he volunteered for and was the star of a video that was created that went out to the whole department, showing the intricacies and the differences between the Garden Grove fire engines and the Orange County fire engines. So he was the star. He did everything, showing the differences, how the switches worked. Just did a really good job. And very excited. He's accepted a position as a fire training officer. He'll start that on Friday. So like I said, he doesn't sit still very long. I look forward to what the future has to bring with John. And I present your Battalion 11 Firefighter of the Year. Nobody died.
Yes, I do.
No?
Yes, I do.
Take it.
All right. Going 1, 2, and 3. One more. And this one. 1, 2, and 3. And one more. There you go.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
John, would you care to say a few words?
Make me happy.
Yeah. You turn into 3 high when you get.
I do want to thank you guys for the transition. Garden Grove is missed, but I think OCFA is a really good department, and I'm enjoying my time there. So,
Awesome. Thanks for all your leadership in the transition. Alrighty, and thanks to all the rest of the guys for coming out to support him.
Thanks, sir.
All right, 1B, Perry's Pizza.
Item 1B is a community spotlight in recognition of Perry's Pizza, a Garden
Yeah.
Grove local tradition since 1974, famous for their Sicilian-style pizza, and Ms. Stipe is here to read the community spotlight.
Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy. Come on forward. Tonight, the Garden Grove City Council would like to recognize Perry's Pizza and Italian Restaurant for being a long-standing business in the Garden Grove community for more than 45 years and for all of its community support. This is David Bobby, and he is the owner-operator of Perry's Pizza. Perry's Pizza and Italian Restaurant was established in 1974 and is famous for their unique Sicilian-style pizza and traditional hand-tossed pizza by the slice. They also offer an array of delicious pasta dishes, wings, fresh salads, hot and cold sub-sandwiches, and drinks for family and friends to enjoy. David bought Perry's Pizza and Italian Restaurant 6 years ago. In addition to satisfying very hungry customers, he also finds joy in supporting the community. Perry's Pizza sponsors sports teams in Garden Grove and schools and teachers by either donating pizza or raising funds. Over the past couple of years, Perry's Pizza donated over 400 pizzas and raised over $10,000. At this time, the mayor and city council would like to present Perry's Pizza and Italian Restaurant with a certificate in recognition of its more than 45 years in Garden Grove and for its exceptional community support. Congratulations.
Oh, goodness, thank you.
Yeah. Can you come up and grab a?
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, here. 1, 2, and 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3, right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3, and this one.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.
And healthy.
Okay.
Righty, and if that wasn't exciting enough, we'll move on to 1C, RENA update.
Item 1C is update on regional housing needs assessments mandated by state law and the impact to Garden Grove as presented by Lisa Kim, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. We do have a brief PowerPoint presentation because it takes quite a bit of slides to kind of illustrate the transition of the upcoming RENA numbers and its impact to the City of Garden Grove. So we're getting that set up. So I'm going to have Nate and Chris Chung. They were instrumental as part of our neighborhood improvement and our planning team in really diving into this 9-month process that we've been involved. And we want to share an update of where we stand and some of our next steps. And staff is also available for any questions you may have at the conclusion of the presentation. So I'm excited to really highlight an update on the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RENA. By way of background, RENA is mandated by state housing law as part of the periodic process of updating local housing elements of the general plan. This process coincides with the 8-year planning cycle of the upcoming housing element. We are currently in the 5th cycle and heading into the 6th cycle. Part of the RENA process, each jurisdiction is assigned a number of housing units, and that must be planned during the 8-year cycle. Should be noted that jurisdictions that fail to obtain a certified housing element will be ineligible for potentially state funding, may be subject to a 4-year RENA cycle. The state may disallow issuance of building permits and may be open to litigation. So the next few slides will be a breakdown of Garden Grove's RENA numbers and how those numbers are determined. It starts with the Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, who assigns a regional determination of housing units to various councils of governments throughout the state. For Orange County cities, we are part of SCAG, and they are responsible for determining the methodology and is tasked with distributing the regional determination in an equitable manner. SCAG's proposed methodology is sent to HCD for review, and upon review, final RENA allocations are assigned. By way of information, SCAG's regional determination number is approximately 1.34 million housing units. The next step in each jurisdiction is the obligation to plan for the production of their future RENA allocation via the housing element and any future zone change and potentially increase in density. I think we're going to go to the crux of our PowerPoint presentation, in which Nate Robbins is going to walk through a little bit of the history in terms of what the current RENA cycle and how that number was determined. And then he's going to walk through the 6th cycle and how the methodology calculates our future RENA numbers. And then I will conclude with some of our next steps.
Thanks, Lisa. So just like Lisa mentioned, we're currently in the 5th cycle of the RENA process. And the way that our RENA allocation was determined for the 5th cycle was very simple. Okay, they called it projected need. All that meant was they would look at the 8 years following the beginning of the RENA cycle, and they would look at a couple different factors. They'd look at household growth, which would be estimates of population and job growth within your jurisdiction. They would look at vacancy needs. So the more vacancy in your jurisdiction, the less housing you need, right? Because there's vacancy. If you have less vacancy, you need more housing. And then they look at the units that you demolish, or what they call replacement need. So these 3 things is all they looked at in the current 5th cycle arena. And based on those 3 elements, our projected need, or our RENA allocation, was determined to be 747 units, which is very reasonable. If you look at an item that's on the consent calendar for tonight, is the annual progress report of the housing element, shows that Garden Grove's produced 681 units over the past 6 cycles. So, over the past 6 years of the 5th cycle. So we're on track to hit our 747, pretty easily, and we'll probably even exceed those numbers based on a couple of bigger projects that we have coming down the pipeline. So again, very simple. Unfortunately, for the 6th cycle, it's not so easy to understand. If you look at what's on your screen right now, Garden Grove, the RENA allocation, the total need based on the proposed 6th cycle RENA methodologies, 19,124 units. Now, as Lisa mentioned earlier, that comes from a regional determination of 1.34 million housing units over 8 years. By comparison, the cycle that we're in now, the 5th cycle, that number was only 400,000. So the entire SCAG region, 197 cities, only had to produce 400,000 units. For this upcoming cycle, it's 1.34 million units for the 197 jurisdictions within the SCAG region. And it's not as simple as breaking it down by projected need. So they have projected need in there, and again, projected need is based on everything that we just looked at earlier: household growth, vacancy, and replacement. Where it gets a little messy, actually, if you look at it first, our projected need for the 6th cycle based on the current methodologies, 1,512 units. So if they stuck to what they'd done in the past, that's all we would have to produce. Unfortunately, they added this existing need category. So where projected need looks at future or estimated growth, existing need looks at past unmet housing growth. So the state said, look, you guys needed to have these many housing units in your jurisdiction or in your region, but because you don't, we're gonna make you catch up, essentially. And that's what they're calling existing need. And our existing need for the proposed 6th cycle is 17,612 units on its own. And then the next couple slides will break down existing need and how that works. So of the existing need, again, 17,612 units, it's broken down into 3 of its own categories. They look at HQTA population. HQTA stands for High Quality Transit Area. Essentially 15-minute stops along an OCTA line during peak transit hours. So if you have those areas in your city, everything within a quarter mile of that line, it's considered an HQTA. And within those HQTAs, or based on that HQTA data, we're responsible for alone 5,563 units. The next thing they look at is job accessibility. Essentially, this looks at the number, or excuse me, the population within your jurisdiction that's within a 30-minute drive of jobs in the area. And jobs is just a general figure. But because of job accessibility in Garden Grove, we get 6,172 units. And then the final one, which is by far the most complicated one to look at, is called residual need. And again, we'll break all these down one by one, but it's disadvantaged community units redistributed, and we get 5,877. I'll go over it here in a second, so it'll make more sense. So HQTA population, again, population within a quarter-mile radius of one of those high-quality transit lines. Garden Grove's in the 96th percentile among Orange County cities, so we're in the top 4% amongst all Orange County cities because our city looks like this. If you see the bolded or the highlighted streets that I wrote in there, Catella, Chapman, Westminster, and Bolsa, Beach, Euclid, Harbor, and Fairview are all considered high-quality transit lines. And it covers about 74% of the city of Garden Grove, which again is in the top 4% among the county of jurisdictions that are covered by HQTAs. No one else even comes close except for, again, the top 4%, which we're among. You can see a little donut in there. I mean, so basically Brookhurst and Garden Grove Boulevard are the only two major streets in our city that don't have high-quality transit. So the next one, against job accessibility, 30-minute drive of jobs. Garden Grove's in the 98th percentile among Orange County cities, so we're in the top 2% of job accessibility in the county. And if you look at this map, you can see Garden Grove in the middle right there. The darker areas, the darker red areas are more densely populated areas that are closer to jobs. Garden Grove is right in the middle of all the jobs you can see around it. Therefore, like I show in the bottom left corner, we're in the 98th percentile. And again, this is where it gets a little more convoluted. Residual need is based on disadvantaged community units. So jurisdictions that are categorized as disadvantaged, they get a cap to their RHNA numbers. Everything above that cap gets redistributed to non-disadvantaged communities. Garden Grove's a non-disadvantaged community. We are considered 48% disadvantaged. And unfortunately, the threshold to be considered disadvantaged is 50%, so we missed that threshold by 2%. But because we're in the 98th percentile and 96th percentile for HQTA and jobs, but we're not disadvantaged, we get the lion's share of that residual need that gets redistributed amongst all of SCAG, but what we're focusing on is Orange County cities.
So, but for that 2%, our numbers would have come down more, right?
Correct. So if we were considered a disadvantaged community, our arena would be, I believe it's 2,000.
2421.
Yeah, so 2,400 units, but instead it's 19,000 because we don't quite meet that threshold. So again, qualifying jurisdictions are known as disadvantaged communities. I'll refer to them as DACs. It's just easier to say. So DACs RHNA allocations, again, are capped at their 2045 household growth projections. Anything over the DACs cap are known as residual units, which again are redistributed. There's 5 DACs in Orange County, and I'll show them on the next slide. But those residual units that those DACs give up account for 44,442 units. And Garden Grove receives the second highest number of residual units among the entire SCAG jurisdiction. We're only second to the city of Los Angeles, which has a population of 4 million people. So Garden Grove's second to a 4 million population city. Okay, so this is an illustration of what we just talked about. So the purple bar on the left are the 5 Orange County DAC jurisdictions: Orange, La Habra, Anaheim, Santa Ana, and Stanton. Their total need, what they should be producing if it wasn't for this DAC exemption, is 70,900 units. But because of the exemption they get based on their disadvantaged community categorization, they only have to produce 26,458 units. So what happens is those 44,000 units that they don't have to produce then get redistributed to the 30 non-disadvantaged communities within Orange County. And you can see in the top right, that blue bar there, Garden Grove gets 13% of the total residual need in Orange County among 30 different jurisdictions. And then the 29 remaining jurisdictions get those remaining units. So then just to sum it all up again, the Garden Grove RHNA allocation based on total need for the proposed 6-cycle RENA methodology is 19,124 units, which is split up amongst existing need and projected need. I think Lisa's going to talk about what we can do about that.
Thank you, Nate. And there's a lot more information to come. Our next step is staff will be preparing an appeal to the RENA assessment process. That process begins in April through May. And so we'll be using the time over the next few weeks to compile our methodology to prepare the appeal, and then we would advise the council in that approach, and that will be a formal submittal. We do have a draft framework of what the appeal process would look like, and we're waiting for the final documentation to be provided, and then we'll be submitting our formal appeal accordingly. At this point in time, our next step is to continue to be diligent in addressing our next steps, which includes our housing element. If we are unsuccessful in our appeal, the 19,124 is our RENA number. We have to incorporate the delivery and the plan to provide those housing production units in our housing element. We have released our RFP for the housing element and anticipate to bring a consultant on board in the next 60 days to begin that process. The timeline to complete our updated housing element will be October of next year. Our goal is to have it submitted to the state for full certification sometime in the summer. We're also in the process of updating our website to ensure that the RENA information as it relates to Garden Grove and the SCAG resources in terms of how this number is determined would be available to the general public as well. We're in the process of updating our respective department webpage, and we'll be coordinating with the Office of Community Relations to assist us in that process. This concludes our staff report. It's a lot of information related to RENA, and I do want to once again, thank Nate Robbins and Chris Chung. They have been in the weeds in all these numbers. And once again, I do want to thank the council for your support. Over the last 9 months, we have submitted 4 letters of objection during the RENA methodology process. And so, but here we are. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate, Chris, Lee, Lisa. Tough pill to swallow, right, to do this. Hopefully we can navigate our way through it. Questions, comments, colleagues?
Yes, a couple of questions. So it seems like we are doing really well in terms of meeting the housing needs for the population, and we are number 2, after Los Angeles. Then my question is, why is it that other cities get exempted when they are not meeting the requirement, and why are we not, being exempt like others and having to take on the bulk of the shortcomings?
I'm going to have Chris Chung, our urban planner, who was part of the process and communicated our objections in the methodology, but I think SCAG had made that determination during their development of this methodology. I'm going to have Chris delve a little bit further into that.
Yeah, the exemption for the disadvantaged communities, the DAC or DAC, as Nate had mentioned earlier in the slide, we're 48%. What that means is that 48% of our population is located in what they call, SCAG calls a low resource tract. And so that's based on several factors like reading comprehension, income, several different factors that get compiled into that DAC calculation. So because we're 2% under that cap, the 50%, we don't get that exemption. And so here we go. Yeah, actually it's not on your screen, but our RENA allocation is the full based on the projected and the existing need. Whereas because, for example, one of the DACs, such as Stanton, Santa Ana, Anaheim, La Habra, and Orange, because they are above that 50% threshold, they get that exemption. And so their entire RENA allocation that's capped at a 2045 projected household growth, which is based on another plan called Connect SoCal. So as Nate had mentioned, all those residual units then get reallocated back to other cities such as Garden Grove, which we get 13% of that.
It certainly doesn't make sense to not more people like me. Obviously, we are not much different than Orange or, Stanton. I'm not sure about Santa Ana, but is that something that you're going to work on so that the public can understand and raise a question to our state representative?
Yeah, well, we've definitely, as Lisa had mentioned, we've submitted 4 letters during the methodology process outlining all of those reasons, and part of the objectives of HCD, the State Housing Department, one of their objectives is to allocate the housing equitably, and we're not certain if that's actually equitable. But the other, what was it? I'm sorry, what was the other question? Part of your question? The
Underproduction.
The underproduction. Oh yeah, I mean one of the main focuses of the state is that they want to create housing where there are jobs and where there's good accessibility to those jobs. We just don't know if that was done in an equitable manner as far as being allocated and how certain.
Right. My question is to a lay person like me. I don't see how we are different from nearby cities such as Orange, Anaheim, and Santa Ana. I always think that we are very similar to the nearby city, and so I do not understand why Garden Grove is not being is not being exempted and Orange is. And I hope that because I'm not an expert on this matter, and so I would like you to look at how they score us and explain to us why we are different than Orange or Anaheim, for example. And you don't have to do that now if you're not ready, but in the near future, I hope you would go back and explain to us as well as the public. So why is it SCAC, treating us differently? That's the question. And then assuming that there is nothing we can do and we have to comply to their demands, what does that mean? Do we have to offer a lot higher density? What does that mean for us?
Thank you, Councilmember Bowie, on some great questions, and I think we're equally challenged by how SCAG determined the methodology in this DAC or DAC calculation. That is part of our appeal process that we are going through, is to challenge the foundation of some of that information and get to the source of that. So we'll certainly get back to you with that information. And as it relates to if we are left with the 19,124 unit target, it will be part of the housing element process where there will be a community engagement, and we will need to identify areas within the city to increase density to meet the RHNA numbers.
Mr. Mayor?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question on how they come up with that DAC number. Do they actually account for past success in meeting RHNA goals? And if so, did we bring that up as part of an objection? Seems to me we've been successful for a long time meeting RHNA numbers, and then they throw this at us where other cities aren't successful and they're not getting hit with 13%. Maybe that would be a good argument to throw at them.
Past success has not been accounted for.
Thank you.
Please.
Going forward, I'd like to know if all our ADUs can be credited as units. I mean, now we have a lot of homes that have the larger properties have a garage that's rented out, that's been converted, an ADU. We're giving separate addresses, and we need to get credit for all these units we have in Garden Grove, mother-in-law's quarters. We have a lot more people living in one property than most people think. So we need to get credit for that. So going forward, if you can use that in your argument too, if we can at least get credit for those, would be good.
I might add to Councilman O'Neill, to your point, that's ADUs is a big point of contention that a lot of cities are looking at. The Orange County Council of Government Cities are all looking at the methodology, trying to figure out. It's not just Garden Grove that's trying to figure out their appeal procedures. There's also discussions going on with legislators and other folks about can some of the legislation be tweaked, amended, so that cities such as ours will get some relief. So I think some of those discussions are going on too. So we're in the loop with a lot of cities in Orange County talking about this. We're going to be looking closely at our appeal strategies and what might make sense, and we'll certainly be, keeping all of you closely updated on how that's playing out.
One thing that we probably should look at too and consider, should the appeals all fail, or do we need to go down the road of litigation, maybe hiring an attorney's, a law firm to fight this nonsense? I don't know. Something that we should keep in mind, though.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, well, one last thing. Have staff talked to the assembly representative that represent Garden Grove? 72 district is one. 74, Anaheim, the office of Tom Daly, is that 74? 69, right, that's 69. Have we talked to them, and also have we talked to Senator Tom Umbert to ask them to lobby for us? All we are asking is for fairness, right? That's all we are asking for. So if we have to share the bulk, then the other city have to do that as well. And I feel that we are, unfairly treated here.
Wonder who's our representative on SCAG? You are? Maybe you can rattle the chains over there.
Any other questions, comments at this time? All right, thank you, guys. We'll move on to oral communications. I do have a couple cards. We'll start with Beatrice Rodriguez.
This is my second visit to the council meeting. Now I feel like a big idiot. I'm here to complain about the B&Bs and the grandmother apartments or mother-in-law apartments that are going up behind and next door to us. So, and my complaint, well, first of all, the last time I was here, I mentioned the Melody Park signs that were falling down. And I'm told that, my husband told me that the sign on the east side has been repaired, so thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, across the street, same entrance, the sign on the west street is got to turn into the same thing. I just figured they were going to come back and repair the other side where the little pillars were falling over, because they left the sign there and it's been laying on the sidewalk since they repaired it last year. So that was the first thing I talked about. The B&Bs were the other. I had a visit from the code enforcement lady, Rita Kramer, who finally came by. She didn't know what the heck I was talking about, since she found no record of any of the complaints about the B&Bs and other issues that were going on in my neighborhood. The first one she found was dated 2012, so that wasn't very encouraging. But she was very concerned and wanted information. Took the addresses. So my big question is, does anybody ask when these people are filling out their permits to put their mother-in-law house be in the backyard, where they're going to put the parking? The house next door to me is a rental. They've got 4 cars parked there. They're building an apartment behind, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And when they open their sliding glass doors, they can, they just have to stand there and look over my backyard. No privacy at all. So I'm figuring with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, they'll probably put at least 3 or 4 more people who will have more cars. I've got an apartment down at the end of the block in the cul-de-sac, and they have turned their garage into an apartment. The lady across the street was really impressed with the one going up next door to me, and she wants an estimate, and I'm going to have one across the street from me now. I have no sidewalks in our neighborhood. They're all of Melody Park, that little area right there on the corner of Chapman and Brookhurst. There are no sidewalks. So we dodge cars trying to get out to Brookhurst to a sidewalk to walk. On top of that, as you come into our neighborhood from Brookhurst, if you turn down Rosalie, the first house on Rosalie, on your right, they've got 2 commercial trucks there parked in their driveway and 1 motorhome. That's in the front yard. And then from their house onto the street where you turn into Rosalie, that's lined up with their cars as well. Then if you turn left on Rosalie, the people that just moved into that house last year, they've got a trailer, they've got a motorhome, and about 4 or 5 cars parked in their yards as well. Coming in off of Melody Park, one day I was walking and I decided to cut the corner and go out. If you come in on Melody Park, you can just swing around and cut the corner onto Brookhurst. I counted 10 yards that were cemented in, and so that they could have parking. My point is, where are we making room for all these people that are going to be moving in? Where are they going to park their cars? The neighbor that lives across, I've got 2 other people, 2 other families that I consider old timers. They've been here. I was in the neighborhood in 1972. I raised 4 kids and a couple of grandkids. We're all talking about moving. There's no place. It's ridiculous. The neighborhood is not the same. The city is not the same. The traffic is horrible. And now it's going to get worse. And I don't know. Does anybody care? It matters to us. We hadn't planned on going anywhere. Garden Grove is our forever house. But, why? So, okay, that was one thing. Also, the B&B at 10071 is still busy. This weekend, we had 3 new cars, and that's the other thing. We don't know who's living in our neighborhood, just on my street. Every weekend, it's a different couple, a different family, whatever. But it's transient, so good luck with the 19,000 homes. Thank you.
Oral communication is always just for the public to come up and address us, but I do want to make one quick comment and just make sure that you understand that this whole thing with the ADUs is something, it's a state law that's being mandated down upon us. It's not something that we think is great either.
But what I don't understand is why when these permits are being issued, why we don't ask where they're going to put parking and...
Because by state mandate, we're not allowed to. They're allowed to do this by right without us. We don't have the flexibility to. Yeah, I get it, loud and clear. It's not a city thing, it's a state level thing being mandated down upon us. Yeah. I totally understand.
Or my neighbors.
Sorry, we'll move on. Nick Dibbs.
Mayor Jones, members of the council, citizens of Garden Grove, I'm Nicholas Dibbs, a teacher, honors graduate from Pacifica High School, and having run for the school board in the 2016 election, I feel I have an obligation to share information to the council and the citizens. The first thing is this afternoon I received an email from Orange County Supervisor Doug Chafee regarding a virtual town hall meeting regarding the coronavirus situation. So that will be on March the 12th, 2 days from now, on Thursday, March the 12th, from 6 to 7 p.m. And you call 855-756-7520, extension 56750. To go in on that town hall. And the more information is at ochealthinfo.com, ochealthinfo.com. So I wanted to get that out because this is happening in 2 days from 6 to 7. Then there is the Be Well Orange County, beweloc.org, Be Well Orange County Coalition quarterly meeting on improving the mental health of students and young people and others, and that will be here in this building at the Community Center, Garden Grove Community Meeting Center, from 1 to 3 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th. Okay, so the virtual town hall on the virus is this Thursday from 6 to 7, and then the following Thursday on March 19th from 1 to 3 is the Be Well OC Coalition quarterly meeting. Go to bewelloc.org for information, more information on that. Then we have a deadline. The city is again having is seeking sponsors for the 2020 college graduates reception. This will be the 8th year. Local businesses, organizations, and individuals are encouraged to support higher education in the community by sponsoring this year's Garden Grove College Graduates Reception. The deadline for sponsors, and for the last 3 years, I've been a co-sponsor of this event, and the deadline to sponsor is Friday, March the 20th. And you go online to ggcity.org and go to news, and then go into where the college graduates reception is. And this is an excellent opportunity to recognize college graduates who will be graduating either with undergraduate or postgraduate degree either this spring, summer, or fall of 2020. And then as a teacher, I'm concerned, as I'm sure many of you are and the citizens are, of a lot of people cannot afford childcare. So the Orange County Department of Education, in partnership with Children's Home Society of California, has a program to help offer childcare subsidized payments for those who are income eligible families. And to get that information, you go to www.chs, that's Children's Home Society -ca.org. That's chs-ca.org. And you can also contact the Orange County Department of Education. But this is important because many families need money for child care, and this will help low-income families. Now, I had the good pleasure, as well as Councilman George Bredegum, on February 18th of attending the city's community input meeting on the urban forest management plan, and the city is putting together, developing a 40-year urban forest management plan. And I'm going to just say that this is helping to put the garden back in Garden Grove, increasing the garden in Garden Grove. During that presentation, we were informed by city staff the city of Garden Grove is approximately 17 square miles and has only 17,000 trees, whereas Disneyland is 1 square mile and has 18,500 trees. There's a deficit of trees in the city, according to staff, of about 10,000 empty tree spaces. So by getting more trees, that helps improve the health and well-being of the community, and it's part of the city's Reimagine Garden Grove campaign. So what does that have to do? Okay, so there's a survey that the citizens can take online up until April the 19th, and that survey can be reached at the city's website by going to ggcity.org and then to the news section.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay.
Okay, we will now, that concludes oral communications. We'll recess and go to successor agency. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll?
Member Member Bradegum? Member O'Neill?
Here.
Member Deidre Nguyen?
Here.
Member Kim Nguyen?
Here.
Vice Chair Bowie?
Yeah.
Chair Jones?
Here.
And Member Klopfenstein is absent.
Okay, we already did oral communications simultaneously with City Council. Consent items, just receive and file the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Call the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Matters? Seeing none, we will reconvene City Council and go on to consent items. Recommended that 3A through 3D be acted on simultaneously. Unless
Motion.
anyone would like to pull.
Second?
Call the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Have no public hearings and no items tonight, so that takes us straight on to matters. Any matters going around the board? Going around the horn? George?
I have one, but I don't have the date at the top of my mind, so I'll wait till the next meeting.
All right.
For me, I just want the public to know that I think for all of us up here, we're very involved with our state legislators because we're all frustrated a little bit with things that happen in Sacramento about things that directly affect us and the residents of Garden Grove. So we're going to fight for you guys and do whatever we can to make sure things are done fairly and equitably to Garden Grove, as like Councilman Bowie was saying, Orange and Stanton. So we get frustrated with the stuff that comes down from there, but we're working hard and getting to our representatives there. And happy St. Patrick's Day, since we won't be back before then. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and be safe. Thank you.
Well, just want to recognize the over the weekend we have art in the park. It's a great event. I had opportunity to look at all the art pieces by the student from GGUSD. Such a talented young students. I don't think I'd be able to make any drawing out of that, but it's very recognizing their talent, and thank you so much for them continue doing this. And once again, I thank you to the community service, Garden Grove Community Service, Janet, and all the staff for this. Also, just want to say happy birthday to my son, my baby, Kai. He's going to be 7 on Friday. Wow. Yes, thank you.
I'll start with the most important one first because I want all of your attention. So we were just talking about RENA numbers and SCAG. So OCOG is the OC regional group that feeds up into SCAG. And last go around, I made an attempt to run for the seat to represent our district, which is 18, that includes Cypress, La Habra, La Palma, and Garden Grove. So we, not everyone on this dais showed up, so I lost. And so the next election is on March 26th at 10:30 in the morning in Irvine. I think it's their Civic Center, and I know it sucks as we all work. But I'd love to urge you guys to come and show up and help me get that seat so that we can have a stronger voice to represent our city. Scott Maria, I sent you an email so we can send my last letter again. It's due tomorrow, so sorry about that. And then we were, again, back to RENA talking about the numbers and why we're facing these numbers. The other thing that's upcoming that's really important that we should focus on is the census, right? The census is going to give us an accurate count. It'll have more detailed information to showcase the fact that I do think that we meet that 50% threshold. You can't tell me that in a county of over 34 cities, 36 cities, Garden Grove has the third largest number of Medi-Cal recipients, and yet we don't qualify for that 50% threshold. So something is not adding up. So please, we have 2 days before the census starts sending mail to you directly with instructions on how to fill out the census, so keep an eye out for that. Census day is April 1st. Make sure you're telling everybody you know to fill out that census form and make sure that they're counting everybody in their household. It doesn't matter if you're doubled up, tripled up, quadrupled up. We're not going to come and do anything because of that. This is just so that we have an accurate count. So if you are living multiple families to a household, don't be afraid of any punitive repercussions from that. Just make sure you count everyone. It doesn't matter if it's 10, 12, 15 people. I don't care. Make sure they're counted so that we get the money that we are supposed to be getting and that we have the right population number when it comes down to RENA. We're not facing these same issues all over again because 19,000 is astronomical and it's not fair. So March 26, 10:30 a.m., census. And lastly, Northeast Garden Grove Little League had their opening day this past weekend. Great organization. They've been running for 65 years. Ray Martinez is amazing. I know that I asked our city manager and assistant city manager to do some work for us regarding them. So I wanted to make sure to let my colleagues know that organization offsets the cost for participation in the Little League to low-income students. So I asked staff to look into sponsorship opportunities for the city to help that Little League maintain the membership that they have, because I think it's important that, again, we don't meet that threshold, but yet we're offsetting costs for low-income kids. It doesn't make any sense to me. So we need to do what we can to help programs like that for those kids succeed. So I just wanted you guys all to be aware that I made that request. That's it.
City Manager?
No items, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. General Counsel, do we have need for closed session?
We had a closed session earlier, and there's no reportable action.
Thank you. With that, we stand adjourned.
Aye.